Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. My name's Lorraine. I have been working with a microphone as has been suggested to me, and I have to say so far the results are not so great with this particular mic. Now, I'm sure that's user error. So today I'm just going to try and talk a little bit louder, and also someone pointed out to me that I can adjust volume in the editing process. So now you don't have to worry about recommending a Bluetooth mic, because my eldest and husband, we went over the technology part like a billion times, because they know what a inept goof I am with technology. So this is the easiest solution, and we're going to figure out how it works. But in the meantime, I hope you can hear me. And otherwise, you're just going to have to put your lip reading glasses on. Today, I have a couple of books to talk to you about. And I think, like two things I have learned is stop turning my head when I'm talking to you. Okay, a little follow-up note on last week's video. We talked about Gail Bowen, Bowen, who is a mystery writer, and I looked it up to see, how current her books were. And the book that I had mentioned last week, there are a total of 21 books in the whole gamut of Gail Bowen mystery writing, and that's about this sort of lawyer sleuth, Joanne Kilbourne. I can't remember what she actually does professionally, but she's connected into the law world. And she's got one child by adoption and another child by her marriage. And at the time that I was reading that book, the children were like 12 and 18 or something like that. So I think, just based on what I remember, you do not have to start at the beginning of the series. I think there's only one or possibly two books in the earlier part of the series that deals with the adoption process of the young girl. So you don't need to read those in chronological order. So she is for sure a solid mystery writer. And if you're looking for some, backlist, I think one of the things about the backlists of older mystery writers is there's perhaps a little less gratuitous ickiness. Well, I don't really like true crime, and I don't really like graphic explorations of bodies. There's one out there, I don't know what her name is, that is a forensic pathologist, and so when it comes time to examine the body, it's like, oh. So yeah, and we don't get that in Gail Bowen. All right, I picked up another author that is old to me, Dorothy Cannell, Murder at Mullings. Now this is the first in a Florence Norris mystery series, and she finished writing this one in, I think it was 2014, and then there was another one in 2015, and then there was another one in 2022. And I think that Dorothy Cannell was in her 80s when that was written. So I haven't gone back, it hasn't been time, haven't gone back to see what that's all about. But she has another series that is with Ellie Haskell. And there are 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14 books in that one. And I believe the commentary has been that they're very much tongue-in-cheek kind of mysteries. So some of them are like How to Murder Your Mother-in-Law, The Importance of Being Ernestine, Goodbye, Miss Chips. So I think if you're looking for something that's a little more on the lighthearted side, I am not positive, but I think there are a couple of booktubers out there who like cozy books, and I think Dorothy Cannell is a favorite of theirs. So this was quite a bit of a different story. I was talking to my daughter about it last night. It's got, the murder mystery little signal on the back of the spine. And so I went in expecting to find a dead body fairly early on. But in the first 35, 40 pages, we are learning about Florence Norris from a young girl till she goes into service at Mullings. This is the estate of Mullings, and she starts out as a kitchen girl, and as time goes by we get to know her life, and eventually she leaves and she returns and as the head housekeeper. So she's a really interesting character. I very much enjoyed reading about her and her her husband and her time on a farm, and it was truly a very nice story. And but we're still well into the book. She returns to Mullings, and she's been there for a few years, and then finally there's a suspicious death, and she thinks that what she's. I think she's the only one who thinks that it's a suspicious death. Well, so time goes by, like as in years, and we are creeping towards a possible solution. But was it a murder in the first place? So it's very much sort of. My daughter and I were talking about how you open a book and you have expectations and they're not met, and so certainly the murder part of this is not a large part of it, and the solution is also not a large part of it. But what we've got is a really interesting below stairs look at just life in England, in the estates, and it's not Downton Abbey. It doesn't have all kinds of drama. It's more about the village people and the servants, and to some degree the son who will eventually inherit as he's a young boy growing up. So we see his progression. It's a very nice book. Is it a good mystery novel? Kind of, because it comes at you sort of from behind the bushes. So I thought it was a good book. I'm interested enough to go back and try the ones with Ellie Haskell. And I mean, I had Dorothy Cannell's name written in my book journals of pre-2020. So obviously I've read her and enjoyed her. So I recommend. Is it a 5 out of 5? No, but is it a good book to keep you going on a winter's eve? Yes, it is. The other book that I read, and it was I don't remember why I have it, to tell you the truth. It's one of was that like Trust the Holds at the Library situation. It is The Last Garden in England, written by Julia Kelly, and truthfully, I don't know why I put it on my list. She's also written The Whispers of War and Light Over London. Now, it's possible. Okay, we have got a garden. Well, we've got an estate and we've got a garden, and we have in the early part of 1900, 1907, 1908, Venetia is a garden designer, and she, of course, is unusual in that she's one of the only garden designers in England who's female. And she's commissioned to do the gardens here. And what are the names of the garden? Highbury House. So we get to see her inspiration and her performance as not really a head gardener, a designer, and the influences that she brings to the original design, and her personal life, which is kind of a little bit stereotypical in terms of, although she's strong enough to be who she is as a design gardener, she still is quite trapped in the social mores of the time. And then we've also got 1944, where we've got a land girl. Those are the girls who went out on the farms when the guys were at war. Beth Pedley. And so she is a land girl on an adjacent farm and doing the work of learning how to drive a trailer at the tractor. The house has been commissioned as a hospital, and she meets and falls in love with one of the patients there. So we're getting to see what it's like when the estates were commissioned into not only hospitals and convalescent places and so on, but also how the grounds were utilized to support the war effort. So there's that piece of the garden. And then we've got the present day, where we have Emma, who has been hired to... Originally, she's hired to redesign the gardens, but they come across the original plans, and so she's redesigning it back to its original decision-making. And so it's kind of interesting. She's not upset about this process. I'd be a little irritated, but that's me. Is this a good book? I thought that the three women's lives were nicely portrayed. The owners of Highbury House are each quite different from the previous generation. A little bit stereotypical in order for the lives of the three gardening women to bounce against. So they weren't terribly surprising. But so that part was all okay. I didn't feel the garden. I don't know. She just, I've read other books where the garden is the main feature, and since it's the last garden in England, which I don't know why they came up with that title, because it's not, but I didn't get a really good sense of the garden. I couldn't really describe it to you. I know there's a couple of ponds and there's a couple of rooms. There's a kitchen garden. Somewhere there's a walk. Somewhere there's a high lawn. There's a wooded area that I kept thinking, that can't be right. But anyways, so the garden, I felt, was not a character in this book, and I wanted it to be. So I would say this was a solid read, solid 3 out of 5 read. The next book that I just started, just this morning at breakfast, and I've heard really good things about it, is The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. And what else has he written? Oh, The Color of Water, Song Yet Sung, 5 Carat Soul, and I think it was Deacon King Kong that brought me to this author. And you know what? I don't think I've read him. I think everybody was really excited about Deacon King Kong. And I heard the premise for this book and thought, I think I'll start here. So it's about, in 1972, workers in Pottstown, Pennsylvania, are digging the foundations for a new housing development. The last thing they expected to uncover was a human skeleton. Who the skeleton was and how it got buried there are just 2 of the long-held secrets that have been kept for decades by the residents of Chicken Hill, the dilapidated neighborhood where immigrant Jews and African Americans lived side by side, sharing ambitions and sorrows. And so very quickly we get to meet a couple of the main characters who were present at the time of this skeleton going into the well. Don't know if it's a murder yet. Don't know who it was. Maybe it was a voluntary skeleton on Halloween, Maybe it's plastic bones. We don't know yet. I'm only on page 6, I think. Anyhow, it's so far so good. I'm enjoying it, and I actually recommended this to my book club who met yesterday afternoon, but I couldn't go because weather things have meant that my French tests have all been upturned, and so although I recommended this, I really don't know how they went with it. I don't know whether they liked it or not, so I'm going to have to phone someone this week and find out whether they thought it was as good as I heard it was going to be. That's it for books. I have got another pile sitting here, and they are all authors who I have read in the past, and I'm just trying to see whether they can be brought into the future. But I do have a little bit of a chit-chat for you. So if you're not interested in my chit-chatting, then, thank you for joining me, and I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true. But this is the time of year where I really struggle, and I know a lot of you struggle with the down and outs. And I just want to talk about that a little bit because, the movement in mental health is to share stories and to just let other people know that A, you're not alone, and B, it is, for some of us, a passing seasonal event, and I'm lucky enough to be one of those people who generally perks up around April. And so a few weeks ago, I gave you the tip of the 15-second task. And you know how if you just count to 15, 1 to 15, you could do something like put 3 books back on a shelf, and it just kind of cheers you up because the house isn't quite so disarrayed. Well, today's 15-second chat, I was looking around the bedroom and I saw quite a few things of socks that needed being rolling or what have you, put in the drawer. And I thought, I'm going to moisturize. So for 15 seconds, I moisturized. And I thought, that's also important. It's also important to just take a little bit of time for yourself and make a hair appointment or clean your glasses. Clean your glasses is a big one. Remember to wash your bra. That's a big one. But the other thing, those are a bit silly, but they do make a difference. And one of the things that really has helped me, of course, they say laughter is the best medicine. And so consequently, I have discovered I think it's the Crufts Rescue Dog Agility course. These are dogs that have been rescued from different situations across the U.S. I don't know if it's in Canada. And they go on an agility course. They've got to jump over things and through tunnels and over bridges and do that little, thing where the dogs have to weave in and out. And I discovered this initially when I was sick in bed for 6 months. And the beagles are so funny. They really hate having to weave through that part of it. And there's a bridge like this where they get to the top and their bodies are so long that it's a problem for a beagle's long body. Basset hound's long body to make the, his body's just kind of woo. So, so I'll link that below, because there's also the Crufts one, which tends to be little dogs who just run amok. They'll just run around the pole but not jump over. They'll run underneath. You can't help but laugh, or if you can't laugh, you probably at least snort. And, snorting's as good as anything at this time of year. So I guess there are other things. I looked for Tyrannosaurus Rex, because there's a whole moment out there in history where YouTubers were getting dressed in inflatable Tyrannosaurus Rex costumes and bumping into each other or playing ukuleles or whatever. So, but the other place that's kind of fun, I think, is a place called the Dry Bar. I think it's called the Dry Bar Comedy Club. And this is where different comedians get up. They're not very well known, but they're good, clean, wholesome, funny. They don't make fun of other people unless it's themselves, maybe their spouse, for sure teenagers, but who doesn't laugh at a teenager? And there's just no swearing, there's no racism, there's no meanness involved, and they're generally good, funny stories. They tend to be on the more anecdotal side of things, and generally you can find a comedian that you enjoy, and then you can follow them. I've come across a couple of comedians that I've enjoyed, and one of them's name is Leanne, and she is from the South, and she's got 3 children that she's been using as her material for years, and she's quite funny. You'll find somebody that you like. So those are the sort of tippy things I have. If you've got a more severe case of things going on for you, I don't have to give you too much information, but in my own world, I'm on an antidepressant. And it was suggested to me at a certain time that perhaps I needed to go on a stronger one. But in my case, that meant going on to a different family of antidepressants. And I didn't want to do that. There's other people who have been on that, where it takes you 4 or 8 weeks to build up the accumulated drugs so that it makes a difference to your chemical balance. But if you miss a dose or you want to come off, it can be quite a bad day. So I was thinking, no, I'd like to go on something a little bit different. So I'm on something that is used for anxiety, and anxiety predominantly associated with pain relief, chronic pain. And so, I can't say names or anything like that. I don't know what the legal laws of or all that kind of business. My point is that sometimes we need to assess what kind of medications we're on and whether they're actually doing the job. Being on an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety pill, which generally has an antidepressant associated with it, sometimes the body has just reached its max moment for that, or you need a little refresh, or you might even need a lowering of the dosage. So it's worth going back into your doctor and just calibrating that. Maybe this is not the right time of year for that, in terms of you're in the middle of something, feeling kind of down and so on, but making the appointment and, thinking, okay, well, next year might be a little bit better if I review this. Doesn't mean you have to change things. I'm just saying it's good to check in with your medical practitioner and just, make sure that what's going on now is as good as it was when you first started going on. And in my case, it's over 10 years ago. So yeah, it's good to just do a review. The other thing that I will say, because I'm on the topic of looking after yourself, is have you done your mammogram? That mammogram needs doing. Have you done your pap test? Yes, ladies, yes. If you're a man, yes. Get your testicles looked at. Have a finger stuck up your bum. You need it. That won't cheer you up, but it'll make you feel like you've done something active towards looking after yourself. So I used to be a simulated patient, and that meant that when the medical students were coming through, you practiced something. You pretended that you were like a mom going through menopause at the same time as a teenager, or as simple as you had a kid with bronchitis and you had to learn how to do a puffer. So there was all kinds of different scenarios that you and the students would go through. And there was a group of very brave ladies who, I was one of the ones who volunteered for breast exams, and there were other ladies who volunteered for the pap tests, and there were gentlemen who volunteered for the testicular test. So I have a bit of a passion around this. It does make a huge difference to get tested. And, you know, it takes a total of a half morning between one thing and another to get there, have it done, go home and have a cup of tea or scotch, depending on how bad it was. Because it's really not that bad. It's more about just like, oh, I don't want to do this. Go do it. And then treat yourself to a chocolate bar or a nice cup of tea or whatever it is afterwards. It's really important because that one morning can save you months and months and months of poor health. So I think that's it for my shtick today. Did I cover everything? I think so. If you're feeling a little bit down and none of these things resonate for you, what about a pair of bright earrings from the summer, or a scarf that's has some colors, or you know what else you could do, since this is a book channel? You could go up to your bookshelf and you could grab some of the books that have got beautiful colors, and you could just put them on your coffee table or on your couch, and you could sit on them. Why not? You could put them in your windowsills facing you, so that when you looked out the window, at the Drury window, you've got a beautiful garden, dragon, knight in shining armor, like whatever, war tank, let's not go there. So, you know, airplane. So anyhow, I think that's it for me. Thank you for listening to my little get healthy, get smiling chat. And I will see you next week with hopefully some more oldies but goodies. Bye-bye for now.